Going live in a couple of minutes, so just waiting for a few more people to join us. I'm going to try and keep on track. Any questions that come up, so if you've got any questions, let me know, and we'll sort them out for you. I'm not allowed to start early. Everything's a bit hot today here. Wonder how it is with you. Not too bad, I hope. It's very warm in the UK. If you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel for Product Partnership Living Working Abroad show, do subscribe, share it with your friends to keep everybody in the know. We try to give specific topics, specific interests to let you know and give you information about that. For expats that are living and working abroad, and that includes people that may have stopped working, be investors or pensioners, but also remote workers as well. So that's what we're looking at. So let's fire away and get started. Hi, welcome to this episode of the Living and Working Abroad show, where we're looking at non-dom today, but non-dom specifically in terms of expats living and working abroad in Cyprus, or are they? This is the question. Post-COVID, a lot of people's work habits have changed, and people are working remotely, and they're working from home, and they're working from their home office. This is something new relatively in the short term, but actually, if you go back 100, 150 years, many are during industrialization, many houses were built around the factories. So although people did live separate to their work, they lived very closely. At the end of the street was the mine, the factory, or the shipyard. But if you go back 500 years, a lot of businesses were run from home. And my great-grandmother had a wonderful stagecoach in halfway between Mansfield and Nottingham on the edge of Sherwood Forest. It was actually called Robin Hood Hills, where it was based, which was a home and a business. And many people had a business that was worked from home. And this is the kind of world that we're moving back into now. But if you can live and work around the corner, you can also live and work abroad and across border. And how does that operate? And that's why we're looking at Cyprus today. So in today's show, though, one of the reasons for picking Cyprus is that although it's in the EU, it doesn't discriminate against non-EU citizens. So UK expats, as well as expats from around the world, can choose Cyprus as their tax base for remote working or for living and working abroad. You can't believe that, can you? That's supposed to be on mute at this time. So the reason we're choosing Cyprus is because Cyprus has doesn't discriminate against EU or non-EU expats. There are some slightly different rules that apply to the two types of people. So within the EU, you've got the freedom of movement, the four freedoms to live, work, and move your money abroad. But under changes brought in the EU post Brexit, although it's legislation from 2019, um, you still have to be registered locally. So you have to go through a residency process, but it's automatic. You have to prove that you've got a permanent home in a country to live and work there as a tax resident. So if you want to change your tax resident within the EU, you've still got to create your permanent home and your residency and be registered in that local jurisdiction. Cyprus doesn't discriminate against non-EU citizens, and that as long as you can meet minimum requirements, then you're open to come and live and work abroad. And this is available for UK expats as well as for expats from around the world. Those visa registration requirements do require you to have a home in Cyprus and to have means of income. Your income can be from investments, it can be from a residual investment income that could be royalties as well as property rental income, but it could also be from work that you're doing around the world, or it could be from pensions. So meet the income requirements either from capital or from an income stream, and you're welcome to come and live and work in Cyprus. So once you do that, and thinking about the remote working and the business working, what are the advantages of living and working in Cyprus? Well, it's all about your domicile. So your residence is not the same as your tax residence. So you can have a home in lots of different countries and live there for part of the year, but you're not necessarily tax residents there. Where your domicile, where you're from, where your parents are from when you're born, determines your domicile of origin. So not necessarily the country that you're born in, but definitely the country you're brought in, and that your parents are native to. So we covered that in a previous vlog on our YouTube channel, Product Partnership Living and Working Abroad, about domicile. So if you want to know a bit more about domicile, search, subscribe and search on the channel for more about domicile. If you're not domiciled to Cyprus, if you're not from Cyprus, if your parents are not from Cyprus, then you've got a non-domicile status which is available in Cyprus. And that opens up a whole new world for living and working abroad. And there's two ways you can adjust to that. There's the normal way, where you are a tax resident by living in the country for more than 183 days a year, but they also have a special concession where you can just be tax resident for 60 days. Again, that's not the subject of this specific subject of this webinar. There's more information available at our YouTube channel. Subscribe to Product Partnership Living and Working Abroad show to see more deep detail on the 60-day rule. What the key point is for what we're discussing today is to be non-dom in Cyprus. Now, if you're not from Cyprus, you're not domiciled to Cyprus, then you're non-domicile. And yes, you have to have a residency permit for Cyprus for any expat. This is a service that Product provide through our Cyprus office, and you can contact us at productpartnership.com to provide that residency permit for EU citizens or residency visa for non-EU citizens, including the UK. Where but for that as well, you also have to have a permanent residence in Cyprus, somewhere where you're living. So once you've done that, you can get a tax residence in Cyprus and then be registered as non-dom. Now, what does non-dom mean? Okay, we looked last week where in the UK, if you've been tax resident in the UK for 15 out of 20 years, they will automatically assume that you're domiciled. Well, the reverse is true. So in Cyprus law, if you haven't been tax resident for 17 out of the last 20 years, then you can be non-domicile we're assuming that you're non-domicile, you're not a domicile of origin. So any expat coming to live and work in Cyprus for 20 years has got 17 of those where they're non-domicile. And that's where the opportunities start opening up. I have to put my glasses on to check if there's any questions coming in from abroad. And this is, I've actually done a little graphic for you, so you can see that. And I haven't got any camera operated, so we just need to consider that what it is. You have to be resident. To be non-dom in Cyprus, you have to be tax resident and you have to have a residency permit. Once you've got those, you can then do an additional registration as a non-dom. Now, there are other exemptions in Cyprus and there are other rules. We've talked about the 60-day and the special rules for long-term expat residents and the special rules for pension expat residents in Cyprus. But look, just specifically looking at somebody who's remote working or nomad working, what the advantage are to Cyprus. But the first advantage of being non-dom is that you don't pay any of what they call the special defence taxes. That's the middle column here, okay? So on your income, on dividends, on interest, on rental income, any income from abroad, any gains, capital gains on crypto, any inheritance tax, any social insurance, any pension income, you do not pay any of the special defence taxes. Now, the special defence taxes range from 3% to 30%, so they're very high flat rate taxes that you could pay in Cyprus, but they're exempt for expats living and working abroad. So that's immediate benefit for those incomes. Now, I've ticked some and crossed some in red because there's question marks about that. But the non-dom can come to Cyprus and, as you can see, they can earn around about £17,000, 19,000 euros without paying any income tax. So if you're remote working and you've got the opportunity to work through your personal service company, through your own company, you can give yourself a minimum income below £17,000 and you'll pay no income tax. And as you can see here, there's no dividend tax either. For non-dom expats using their personal service company, there's no dividend tax at all. There's no take a loan and you've got loan interest coming in, or there's no tax on that. So you can pay yourself a minimum income and then you're not paying any taxes on that dividend income. So if you've got a dividend income, if you've got an earned income of £15,000 and a dividend income of £150,000 from your personal service company, you'll pay no tax as a non-dom expat in Cyprus, which is a pretty good gig if you want to do that. On the right, we've got a tick against medical. There's a flat rate medical tax which you could be liable to pay. At the base level, it's about 2.65%. So it's not a massive tax, and it's potentially liable on your worldwide income. So if you're working within Cyprus, that income tax is paid, that medical is paid through your social insurance levy. But it's still potentially liable on your worldwide income, even if you're non-dom. So something to think about. There are exemptions that are available, but that's a different subject and it's not for this meeting. So it's just something to consider. Property rental income is something that the Cyprus is very focused on, and there's a lot of new legislation, exchange of information on property rentals, including overseas property rentals. So if you're got a holiday let that you're letting through Airbnb or Booking.com, Hotel.com, all these sites, as well as local agents now, are forced to report to the tax authorities, and that goes into the exchange of information. We've got a guide on exchange of information. you can get a copy from projectpartnership.com. So rental income is something that's like, so it has a special defence tax in Cyprus, which is exempt for non-DOMs, but it's still part of your income tax. So it could be part of the 19,000 euros exemption. So if you've got a property rental income and a personal service company, your property rental income might be enjoyed zero income tax, but your property rental income would use that allowance, and your dividends is your business income. So it enables you to earn quite good income levels for that. Property rental income could be subject to the medical tax on worldwide earnings. So we're beginning to get a picture where a non-DOM expat working in Cyprus can enjoy a low level of taxation on their work. Now, where are you resident and where you're tax resident? Now, if you're resident in Cyprus for more than 183 days, you're tax resident and resident in the country, then obviously as a non-DOM you can still enjoy these tax benefits, but you will be taxed on all your income that you're earning. If you're a tax resident in Cyprus, your permanent home is in Cyprus, but you're then working out of a different jurisdiction, and that could be your own personal service company. So if you're doing contract work in Africa, Europe, America, Asia, anywhere but Cyprus, and that contract work is for more than 90 days a year, then your income is only taxed as a Cyprus tax resident on a remittance basis. So even if you are tax resident in Cyprus for more than 180 days a year, as long as you do more than 90 days a year abroad and the rest of that remote work in Cyprus, then that income can be taxed on a remittance basis. That opens up big opportunities for remote workers and nomad workers. So nomad working, moving from country to country every 3 months, doesn't always work. Okay, in Europe, you've got the Schengen zone, which limits you to 3 months in a country every 6 months, unless you're registered as resident and possibly liable to tax residence. Then outside Europe, you've still got the issue that those limitations might apply, but also you've got the potential of being you've got to be a tax resident somewhere. And if as a nomad, as a digital nomad, if you're not tax resident somewhere, you'll be tax resident in your country of domicile. Now, what Cyprus are offering is the opportunity for you to remote work and be a tax resident in Cyprus and still have the flexibility to be living and working abroad. And so you could be your permanent base can be Cyprus to work elsewhere. And as long as you're working more than 90 days in another country on that overseas contract, then your overseas work will be only taxed on a remittance basis to Cyprus. So not only are you dividend free, tax free, you can earn 120,000 contract elsewhere, and that can remain tax free. Obviously, that depends on the jurisdiction where you're working as well. But if you're working through your own personal service companies, that can work. So working abroad and the remittance basis of tax is a good option for Cyprus tax residents to pay little tax on that type of income. There's no capital gains and no inheritance tax in Cyprus. So if over the long term, an expat is tax resident in Cyprus over 17 out of 20 years, they can get a lot of allowance for that period against income taxes. But at the end of the day, the capital gains and the inheritance tax that might result from that is zero in Cyprus. The only thing that you pay capital gains on in Cyprus is on Cyprus property sales. Okay, so if you've got an overseas investment, a company that goes public and is shared, their capital gains tax free. Social insurance is an interesting one. And before I go on to that, let me just cover the issue with pensions here. Pensions have a special tax rate. So anybody with a large pension, so you've got 100,000 pension, you can pay a flat rate 5% tax. There's a bit of allowance, but not very much, a couple of thousand, but it is a 5% flat tax rate. If you're getting a state pension, you get exemption from health taxes as well, and you're not paying any special defence tax on that. So if you've got a pension and you've got earnings, you're still only going to pay 5% on that pension, and you've still got the non-dom benefits of your earnings, either as remote earnings from abroad on a remittance basis, or you've got the personal service company option with the personal with the non-dom zero rate tax option to receive a dividend income. So as we were saying before, open to Cyprus for UK, EU and non-EU expats who want to live and work abroad in Cyprus, remote working, nomad, digital nomad working, or just as a tax resident base, with the normal rules of 183 days a resident in that country in the year. But actually Cyprus is even better because you've also got a 60-day rule. The 60-day rule is slightly complicated, that, and is why I wanted to leave the social to the end. Now, social insurance, national insurance, it is due in any country where you're doing the economic work. So depending upon the rules of the country, there's a liability to contribute to social insurance work. So if you're working pay as you earn in the UK, you will pay national insurance. If you're working in a contract in Cyprus, you will pay social insurance tax. It's a flat rate tax in Cyprus. It includes the health taxes, but it is a flat rate tax. So, it's sort of up to 20% of tax. There's lots of bits and pieces and twiddles on it, but that is potentially a flat rate tax you're going to pay on income or on your sole trader revenue that you're going to generate. But again, that is if your tax base is in Cyprus. So if you are operating out of a Cyprus company, or you're operating as an employee in Cyprus, then or sole trader in Cyprus, that economic activity, you must register for social insurance and pay that tax in Cyprus. But the good news is that if you're paying it in Cyprus, that covers the economic activity. You might not have that liability back in the UK or Germany or wherever your home country jurisdiction is. So social insurance is something that we do pay, and the great advantage for expats, remote working expats, is as soon as they start paying, in practice you have to pay 3 months, you qualify for the health service in Cyprus. So a nomad can be tax resident in Cyprus, pay social on that income in Cyprus, and have that health cover, which is exchangeable within the EU, so it covers the whole family. So one person qualifying for medical care through their social insurance contributions qualifies the whole family, which is spouse and dependent children. Obviously not once children get to over 18 or outside full-time education, that they have to fend for themselves and do their own work. So again, it's a big attraction that healthcare is available for expats if you're paying that. If you're not working in Cyprus, then you don't have that liability to the social insurance. So if you're an expat and you're working on a remote basis, and you want to use the abroad tax exemption, so to only pay tax on a remittance basis, then in those options, you haven't got a liability to social insurance in Cyprus because your work is being done abroad. Now, you may have one in the country where the work is being done. So if you're contracted in the USA, you'll pay social insurance in the USA. If the contract is in the Middle East, well, you pay the Middle East rates of contract and tax, and obviously there's little or no taxes there. But you don't necessarily, you have to then need private medical cover. So if somebody wanted to be a Middle East working and it was Cyprus tax based, they could enjoy a flexibility where to base a family in Cyprus, be a tax resident, pay social to cover the family, but still enjoy the tax benefits of working remotely in the Middle East. So there's an option there for people to consider. Cyprus has also got this wonderful 60-day rule, but for the 60-day rule, there are certain conditions. So again, it's an extra level of registration. Now, on the 60-day rule, the non-dom expat only has to be in Cyprus for 60 days a year as opposed to 183 days. So if you wanted to work and be based in the Middle East or Africa or Asia permanently, or you want to be a digital nomad working around the world, then you can qualify on a 60-day tax residence basis. So this really suits the nomads. But for that 60-day rule to apply, then the key thing that you need to do in that consideration is that you need to be employed in Cyprus and you need to be paying, therefore, social insurance in Cyprus. So if you're a director of a company or own a company or a sole trader in Cyprus, then you can enjoy tax on the 60-day rule. So you only have to be here for 60 days. Okay, but there has to be an economic activity. That can't be just that you have a permanent residence here, somewhere that you own or permanently here in Cyprus. You also have to have an economic activity where you are a sole trader, employee, or director of a company that you own. So that opens up a whole world of opportunity. So if you are working remotely and your Cyprus tax resident is based upon a corporation which is resident in Cyprus, that gives you the directorship and allows you to be a tax resident based upon that employment. As a non-dom, you can pay yourself a minimum income and enjoy the exemptions from dividends and defence taxes. Pay yourself a low income, so you don't pay income tax. You will pay social insurance, but that will give you the healthcare in Cyprus. And the 60-day rule will apply then, where you can be living and working abroad for most of the year, whether that's traveling that you want to do, or whether it's just that you want to carry out the work on location, on short contracts in different locations around the world, whatever type of work you're doing, whether you're working in the oil fields, deep sea diving, or one-off projects on a custom basis as a contractor. So that wraps it up. There's no questions come through as far as I can see. You can always chat to us during these live webinars, and we'll try to answer those questions in the set. So in summary, non-domicile status in Cyprus offers great opportunities for expats that are living and working abroad. If you want to be a remote worker and pay a minimum amount of tax, then it gives you an opportunity to either pay yourself with a dividend strategy or a remittance-based strategy. But you can enjoy having to only spend as few as 60 days a year in Cyprus and still be living and working abroad. So if you enjoy traveling, you want to work in different places around the world, expat Cyprus as a non-dom is a tax efficient, safe, secure location that doesn't discriminate against EU or non-EU workers. So it's open for UK expats, global expats, as well as EU expats to be living and working abroad and pay low taxes. For more information and guidance, you need to do a few things. You need to subscribe to our YouTube channel, just for the plus, that to say that you like the webinar, share it with friends, contact us at productpartnership.com, and we offer a free review to all our new inquiries, and we'll give you a consultant review. That's a starter. Our free consultant reviews are what we do for our retained clients all the time. So you've got that access for that information, whether you want to talk about your residency, your day's residency, split year treatment, or your tax return that's due at the moment. We're expat experts on tax and tax residents living or working abroad, for remote workers and for retired expats. So contact us at productpartnership.com. Love to hear from you. Subscribe as a retained client, or just contact us for a free review, and we'll see how we can help you. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next time.